Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do, because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
The time is here.
Everybody needs to know that our dogs have been podcasting together already today, right? Right, Audrey?
Right. And
Aw.
Adler.
And Adler. Everybody, this is not Anita and Mel anymore. It's Scotty and Adler. We're just here observing, hitting record because we have thumbs. Okay, anyway, we kind of introduced you, but actually not at all. So who do we have with us today, Anita?
We have Audrey. This is so funny because Audrey's one of our patrons, and like for 3 solid weeks, my brain went on vacation and could not say her last name, even though it's not even hard. I was like, Henninger, it's Henniger, right? Did I say it finally right? Audrey
That
Henniger.
is correct. Yes. People are scared to say Henniger.
Why?
I don't know.
I think
I
it's
don't
like
know.
I blame Bill. It was his last name, and now I have to deal with that. People
Yeah.
not wanting to say Henniger.
What's your maiden name?
Cohen, like
Okay.
the easiest,
Like Cohen?
shortest. Yeah, short. Yeah.
I don't think
Well-
it should be that hard, but as somebody who suffered from Henniger derangement syndrome for 3 weeks, I mean, I feel for them.
Thanks for putting up with us, Audrey, and welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us where you are. Where do you live?
I am in a log cabin, as you can see, and
Like actually a log cabin, not
actually
like a
log
pretend
cabin.
one.
Yep. In Leavenworth, Washington, which is about 2 hours outside of Seattle.
Why do you live in a log cabin? How did that come to pass?
Why not? Would you live in a log cabin? I'm
Yeah.
stoked to hear this.
We bought this place in 2018 as our vacation home.
Oh,
Yeah. And we lived outside of Seattle in a town called Des Moines. We pronounce the S in Des Moines. But after Bill died, I was like, I don't want to be in that house anymore. I have 2 houses. I'm one person and 2 dogs. So we moved out here.
oh, okay. That's interesting.
I feel like we know you because we say your name every week. We see you in the Widow Wives Club. We see the pictures, but then we've actually never spoken really until today, right? Like one-on-one
Right.
or
Yeah.
2-on-1. We are outnumbered.
Yeah. I discovered the Widow Wives Club probably while Bill was missing. I don't know if that's a spoiler alert.
Wait, you're a
Wait,
widow?
what? Wait, who? Well, good. I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad that she is in the Widow Wives Club and a widow and not a scammer.
Yes.
Okay. Audrey has an interesting story, and we don't know all the ins and outs of it yet. So yeah, I really want to hear it. So there is a little tiny spoiler alert, but yeah. So that's how you found us.
Yeah.
So you thought you
Before I knew for sure he was dead, which is crazy.
That is
Um,
crazy.
yeah, so I was like, what is a widow? Am I a widow? Where are the other widows? I think I'm the same age as you guys. Well, I just had a birthday last week, so I'm 42 now, but only 41 at the time. And like, I don't know any 41-year-old widows. And so that's how I came upon the podcast. And then after I knew Bill was dead, the Widow Wives Club.
you're our people, and I'm so sorry. And yes, I'm 40 right now. Anita is 42.
Yep. Yep. So we're the same age. Audrey, can you back up and tell us a little bit about Bill? Like where he came from, how you guys became together?
Yes,
all
who
of
is
the
this
things?
Bill?
Who is this Bill character?
Yeah, he is a character for sure. We met in college when we were 20. Didn't start dating then, though. He was really annoying and he smoked, and I was just not into that. He's the type of guy that wants to argue a point, even if he doesn't believe it, just purely
Mhm.
for the sake of arguing. But also, that was his way of flirting, I think, which now in hindsight, I know. But we started dating when we were 20 after having a class together and then finding out we worked for the same restaurant. Like he transferred to my restaurant. That was 20 years ago, or just over 20 years ago.
Were you in Seattle or were you in a different place?
Yes, the same town I just moved away from, Des Moines, was where we went to college, where we worked, where we lived, where he grew up. We ended up buying his parents' house,
Oh, wow.
and his parents ended up building a house right behind us. So I lived right next door to my in-laws, which I love my in-laws. And so it was a great arrangement for us. Even though we don't have kids, they helped with the dogs and all that kind of thing.
You were like inculcated into their tribe. They were like, we will
Yeah.
take you and you will be ours now.
Yeah, the Henniger compound. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I have
man.
questions. So, pre-widow life, describe Audrey for us.
I'm a crazy dog lady. Obviously, I am so crazy. I ended up working in the pet industry. So I work for a pet food company. Mel, did you get the care package
Yes,
that we
okay,
sent?
that was you that sent it.
Yes,
I
yes.
was like, who sent me that? The dogs love it. I
That's
just used the
awesome.
last of some of it the other day because one of my dogs has a super, like my Wime, he has the most sensitive everything. So thank you, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, Audrey sent
yeah.
me some things. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the company's amazing. It's based in New Zealand. It's called Canine Natural and Feline Natural. So we sell cat food too. But it's based in New Zealand. So I started working for that company and just that's been my life. I travel a lot for work and I talk about dogs all the time and dog poop because dog food equals dog poop. Um,
I bet
and
you're
so
fun at parties.
yeah,
Yeah.
until it gets awkward.
Never.
Yeah, the stuff's from New Zealand, and so they ship it here everywhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of known in the pet world that New Zealand stuff is like top notch.
Yes, definitely. Like it is really high end, fancy.
Okay, so you worked as a dog food dog lover person
Yeah,
before
it's
you
hard to
became a widow.
describe. Yeah, so it's hard to describe my job, but because of work and life and loving dogs, like Bill and I just decided not to have kids. We were like, we're just gonna um, buy a cabin in the woods. We're gonna retire at 50. We're gonna have like rescue dogs, and that's gonna be our life. That's what I had been working towards for the last 20 years. But then fast forward to 2022 here at the cabin, um, Bill had an accident. And Bill's the type of guy who he had a motto, and it's really embarrassing to say sometimes, or just awkward, in that he said nothing bad ever happened to him. And so he kind of lived like that motto. It was like, do the things that get your adrenaline pumping. He was never scared of anything. So river rafting, snowboarding, we're big snowboarders. But he would go fast and crazy, whereas I would just mosey on down the mountain casually. And anything jumping off of cliffs, anything wild and crazy that he could do, it was his jam. Um, and river rafting was a big one for him, particularly whitewater rafting in boats. And he wasn't really much of a kayaker, but we owned kayaks, and I whitewater kayaked on occasion. I grew up river rafting as a child, and my dad is just a really epic river rafter. A lot of people in the community know him. So when Bill joined our family, he just really embraced that community and loved those activities. So here at the cabin where we live in Leavenworth, there's a river called the Wenatchee River, which is a really cool rafting river. And in the summertime, inner tubing. There's a really cheesy Amazon movie right now that's based here.
What?
Is it Velocipaster?
No.
Okay.
All the cheesy romantic movies are, because like this is Christmastown, USA. So there was a Lifetime movie this year. All those movies are based here because it's a tourist attraction. So we've got the river rafting, we've got the snowboarding and the skiing, the snowmobiling. And so that was why this was a perfect place for us to retire. So Bill was waiting to try out some different parts of the river that he had never done before. In June of 2022, so June 25th, 2022, Bill and one of his friends decided to go check out a portion of the river that they hadn't done before. And they left really early. The plan was that they would go out, they would raft all the way down to here at our house because we're on the river, and then do some mountain biking or other activities. It's the beginning of summer. The weather was amazing. And I didn't have a good feeling about it. So I refused to drive him up. So my friend drove him out in my truck to the spot where they put into the river. About 2 hours after they left, the friend's wife called me because they had the Garmin inReach and it had triggered the SOS. And so the Garmin inReach just does pre-recorded messages, so it'll call emergency services when something's needed. So she calls me and said there was just an SOS, and I'm like, a what? And I'm still in my pajamas because I was having a lazy Saturday. I just threw shorts on. I don't even think I was wearing a bra at the time, and we just took off and drove out there. And we arrived before the emergency services arrived on site, but they were there maybe a minute later. And we pretty quickly, because it gives you a GPS pin of where they are. And so we could see the river from the road and pretty quickly spotted her husband. And it's massive rapids, really loud river. So we're screaming across, and he's basically saying, I don't know where Bill is. A lot of this stuff now is a blur to me, but basically, I'd say approximately 40 search and rescue ended up showing up from Lake Wenatchee Fire and Rescue. It's a volunteer organization, so these are all volunteers. They get notification and they show up. And they started looking for Bill. So they did ground crew searches. They located Bill's boat right away. Bill actually had the Garmin on him, on his boat in the dry bag. And his friend went over to the boat and grabbed the Garmin, and that's how he was able to trigger the SOS. And they ended up calling in a helicopter.
Just so you guys know, the thing that she's talking about is a little device that's a satellite communicator, and you turn it on. And if you have an emergency, then you push a button and it alerts your emergency contact. And it also goes directly to search and rescue or somebody who can come. And so that's what she's talking about when she's talking about the little device, the inReach that they use to be able to find. Now you can keep going now that we've had that little promo.
Yeah. The guys didn't even talk about bringing that until the night before when I refused to drive them out. I was like, you need to bring the inReach out there. You're going to be in a place where there's no cell phone service. What if something happens? And so I made them bring that with them too. And so his friend wouldn't have been able to be rescued in time. And it would have been 8 hours before we would have known anything without that in reach. So they called in a helicopter. That was really surreal, having a helicopter coming overhead that came from King County, which is about 2 hours away from where I'm at, because the county I'm in here, Chelan County, is a much smaller community, and their helicopter, I guess, was in use. There's a lot of emergency services needed out here with recreational activities. So they're hollering over the helicopter his description, what he was wearing, his life jacket color, all of those things. And they searched for about 8 hours, I would say, and it started to get dusk, and they said, we're just going to call it. And at that time, in my head, he's just lost in the woods somewhere trying to find the road. So that's just where my head was at the time. So we decided to come home to the cabin, and I couldn't eat. My friends brought me tater tots because I love potatoes, and I didn't even eat those. And I'm trying to figure out, where is he? It's almost dark, and my friend who was staying with me last summer and drove them out there was like, let's just go out one more time. So we go to drive out just to scream his name, and maybe he's wandering on the road now. And a huge bear ran across the road right as we're approaching where he went missing. And that's the first time I've seen a bear out there. We get bears, but like never seen one in person out there. And that was just wild. And so we're trying to walk towards the river, and we both get scared of bears and just run back.
Well, yeah.
The truck. So the next day, a ton of friends showed up at my house, and my brother started a search and rescue crew of volunteers, of friends and family. The search and rescue from the local Lake Wenatchee Search and Rescue and from the Chelan County Sheriff's Department were also on site to look for him. And I decided to stay home because I was in cell phone service. I started making calls to friends and family that were close just to let them know he was missing, and wanted to stay nearby. So I'm at home, and about halfway through the day, I see a black truck drive by, which looks like my dad's truck, drives past my house, and then two sheriff's trucks drive by, and then they whip around. My dad was just in such a rush and grief brain that he totally drove by my house. And so the sheriff stopped because they know where I live, and they get out of the car and they're like, we're just going to wait for your dad. And that's when I knew it wasn't good. And so my dad pulls up, gets out of the truck, and then they go and grab a life jacket. And they said, was this Bill's life jacket? And it was. And so they basically were like, anytime something like this happens, the person usually doesn't survive. And they anticipated that he was probably stuck in a log jam or caught under a rock, and the force of the water ripped the life jacket off of him.
Oh, wow.
So that was insane. Like, you hear people tell stories about what it's like when you find out someone is dead. And I didn't know. I was like, he probably is dead. But again, I don't know. And it's kind of like, yeah, you sob. And my reaction was like the movies, where I just kind of like fell to the ground, like in disbelief.
So the kind of kayak he was using was like the kind where you're like buttoned up into it with like the little apron thing, and it's like sometimes you flip upside down and you have to be able to like flip yourself right side up, like that kind of major heavy duty kayak situation.
Great question. That kayak was not the kind he was in, but it is a whitewater kayak. It's called an inflatable kayak. So it's made by the companies that build these kayaks for whitewater rafting. It was actually my kayak he was in. He didn't have a ton of experience. And so what I found out later on was that the guys got into the water, and then he was planning on doing was scouting the river. So he'd just pull over, look at it, the spot, and then if it didn't look like a spot he'd want to go down, he would pull the kayak out and walk around. Well, he ended up falling out when he was trying to do that. And so went over a waterfall.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're just both speechless for a sec.
He's doing this extreme sport, and then he's missing. And so remind us, how long was he missing?
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts, and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor.
So at the time, it was the end of June. We had a massive snow season, and the lake and river that he's by is from the ski resorts. The melt off feeds into that. And so it was higher than normal water. And the search and rescue guys were like, we can't get into the water where we think he might be. We're going to look around the banks and look for him. And they had drones out looking for him. And they sent the helicopter. Actually was what found his life jacket was the helicopter. And so the search and rescue group was out every day looking for him from then on, pretty much. There's volunteers for the local fire department, and then there's the sheriff's department, who is the sheriff's department. It's the police force that's funding that search and rescue. And so more so the volunteers than the sheriff's department were out looking for him on a regular basis. And then my brother was out every day looking for him. And my brother is a river rafter too, and into the extreme sports, and was there every day until we found Bill. And so search and rescue couldn't really get into the water for almost 4 weeks. And when the water levels dropped to the level that they could get in was when they said, okay, we've got this scheduled day. We're going to send a dive crew out to look for Bill. In that 4-week period, my mind is like, what happens if they don't find him? I didn't know this, but somebody can be missing for 7 years before they're declared legally dead. So I wouldn't have had rights to the property we share, life insurance, all these things if they didn't find him. And so I'm just like, what if we don't find him?
And is that required? Like, if they can't find him, you have to wait 7 years?
You can go to court and fight it and show enough evidence that he is truly dead, which I know there's people out there that are doing those types of things, because there's so many missing people that are presumed dead. But the legal system says the magic number is 7 years.
Oh my gosh, Audrey. So was it 4 weeks to where they found him? Holy hell. How did you even sleep or eat? What did you do? How did you deal with that?
I didn't eat at all, hardly, which is ironic for me because I'm a foodie. I slept a lot because I think it was so emotionally draining that I would just sleep through the night, because the whole day I'm stressing about hearing from the group that's out there with the drone and whether or not they found anything. So within that 4 weeks, they ended up finding his splash jacket, which is like a waterproof jacket. They found his shirt he was wearing underneath that. So they kept finding things. So we tapped into a few resources. There is an organization called Find Me, which is a group of professionals that are search and rescue, psychics, and different groups like different people like that. And so they were on the case, like trying to locate his body. Now I've determined it's his body. I'm pretty sure he's dead. I deactivated all my social media and didn't tell very many people because I didn't want that false hope that people, oh, he's a big, strong man, he'll survive, it's fine. And I felt like that was just not going to be productive for me. So I kind of became a little bit of a recluse from friends and family, and hid at my home in Seattle, or outside of Seattle. The day came that the dive team was going to go out and look for him, and they had some spots where they thought he might be located. And my brother was there as well, sheriff's department, and then the local fire department search and rescue. They searched all day and didn't find him on the day that it was scheduled. And one of the guys, I think from the sheriff's department, was like, I think I saw something on drone footage or something, and this was like, I think a mile down the river from where he went missing. And there was a log jam there. And so the scuba team had left, the dive team had left, and it was just a couple of guys from the sheriff's department and my brother, and they went down to this spot and they found him.
During the 4 weeks that he was missing, did your brain do any crazy things? Like, did you think that he was actually in the CIA or like had run away to be in the circus or something? Or were you pretty much just like resigned to the fact that he died?
At that time, no, but now my brain does those things. When you talk about that in the Widow Wives Club and in on the podcast, I'm like having these dreams, like he just shows up and he's like, just kidding. I was just trying to figure out if I could survive in the woods. And I don't know if it's my brain just because I didn't see his body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never saw his body. I can't imagine what it would have looked like. That would be traumatizing. My brother saw his foot, and I know that that's got to be traumatizing.
Oh my gosh, yes. I have a question too. I was watching a documentary about a murder and, well, not a murder. It was about a boating accident and the girl was missing, I think, for 2 weeks. And I was kind of paying attention to what their thought process was because they said, okay, we're out here diving, search and rescue is here. We just hope that she's found okay. And like, even on the news, the family's saying this. And I'm like, is there ever a scenario that you've heard of where somebody's been in an accident like that and like they really just swim down the stream and they're like lost somewhere? Or is that, you know what I mean? Like, why do our brains do that? Like, well, maybe she'll be fine.
He was found in the Gulf of Mexico. He made his way over to the Mississippi and got shot out the Gulf of Mexico.
He just kept swimming.
He just kept going.
That's why it's 7 years to decide if they're dead or not, because maybe they did run off. I don't know. But I knew the moment they found his life jacket because his life jacket was zipped up. And Bill is the messiest guy you've ever met. He socks and underwear and jackets and things everywhere. He would have never taken the life jacket off and then zipped it back up. And so that's the moment when I knew, like, he's definitely not.
Oh my gosh.
He's definitely gone.
They think his like arm slipped out of it because it wasn't torn or anything.
Like he wore size 13 shoes, and so he had big feet. My brain is like his foot got lodged under something, and then the current ripped the life jacket.
So it was like
off.
Intact, but it was almost like
okay.
Wow, that's strong.
Like not tore it, but
that's strong current. Jeez.
Yeah.
So you said that you did not see his body, but they retrieved his body?
Yes, my brother was there through the whole thing. So they brought it was in the middle of the river in a log jam, and so they had to bring a helicopter out. And I actually did see my brother showed me the video. I don't know if I was prepared at the time to see the video, but I saw the video of the helicopter lifting his body out of the river in a body bag. And then the closest funeral home is an hour plus away. And so they had to drive out there and get him. And my brother was like, do I stay? What do I do? And they were like, nope, we got it from here. And so my brother drove into cell phone range and called me. And the sense of relief, like I knew the search and rescue was going on. And so I had my sister and my best friend over at my house because I wanted to be around people when I got any news, whether it was they didn't find him or they did. And so the relief that I felt when they found him was just massive. It was like you could take a breath. Like he's not missing anymore. We know we have answers. And so that was, and then it was just phone calls after that. It's calling people who knew him, who knew, and then calling the people who didn't know or that had no idea he was even missing.
It's not a good situation when the relief comes when you know that somebody is dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just such a strange thing to be saying, like, oh, I feel so relieved. Like, what world is that a relief? But I totally understand what you're saying. But just to not be questioning and not have to go through that, like, torture every single day and not know.
Yeah, the answers. And we talked about the fact that I'm a crazy dog lady. And you've met Adler. He's such an emotional dog. And so I was like, what do I do with this dog? He knows something's up with me. He hasn't seen his DAD. I can't even say the word because he'll look around even looking for him today.
Oh, sad.
Oh.
So I have a friend who was connecting us through Find Me, the psychic organization. I was like, can you find me an animal communicator? Because I need someone to talk to Adler and tell him what's going on. And so through a couple of people, I got connected to this woman in Germany and spoke German. So I'm typing in Google Translate my message to her. And I'm a little bit skeptical of the whole situation. She's in Germany on the other side of the world, but there was these weird signs too. When I contacted her to tell her the situation, she told me she had just lost her husband a few weeks before. And then her last name had Adler's name in it. And so I was like, she needs to talk to Adler.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to hear how that went down because I've never heard of a dog psychic or a pet psychic. So explain.
I don't know if everybody does it this way, but what she did was required a picture of him with his eyes. And so I sent him a picture of his sad face.
Oh.
And I'm trying to remember what other things. I think it was like how old he is, what his sex is, and just a few details about him. And then she wrote me back a couple days later and she said, I found a really good spot to communicate to him and basically asked him what he thought was going on, how he felt about the situation, explained to him where his DAD was. And so it's so heartbreaking. She basically, he felt like he let his pack down and that his whole goal in life is to keep his pack together. And he felt like he failed.
Oh my gosh, poor boy.
Yeah, Sadler. That's his nickname.
Sadler.
Sadler needs some bark box.
Yeah.
He needs all of the treats and all of the toys.
Well, he's spoiled.
Yeah,
Okay,
he gets
good.
all of your New Zealand stuff. So
Yeah.
does she like communicate with him too and say it's not your fault? How did it end up?
Yeah, she explained the situation and I think it doesn't matter what the answer is and what the situation is, Adler's still grieving. And so I definitely saw my dogs grieving. I have another dog, but she's not as obsessed with me as Adler is. And they both were moping around the house. They could feel that things were different. There was people constantly there. I'm not traveling. Their DAD's not home. And so they grieved for quite some time. And I still feel like they probably still wonder when he's going to come home. But I think that the pet psychic did help, like at least give him some answers, because I did notice a little bit of a change in him after that.
So, Audrey, you've made this plan for your life. You're going to retire when you're 50. You guys are going to have dogs. You're going to travel. You're going to snowboard. You're going to do all the fun stuff together. And it's just poof, it's gone. So how have you started to figure out what life is going to be like for you? You're not that far out. So I feel like maybe it's not a fair question to be like, so what's the plan now? But you've changed some things in your life. So obviously you've started to move toward that path.
Yeah, old Audrey had her life figured out for, 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, 20 years. And now it's just completely out of went down the waterfall. And it's
like,
I'm coming
literally though.
literally, yeah. Coming to terms with that, not being able to control what's going to happen to me in the future, and also letting go of just expectations was a big part of what I've been working on myself for the last several months. But another thing that I've really worked on a lot is working in nonprofit work over the last couple of months, and I've found a lot of therapeutic benefits to doing nonprofit work, partially with search and rescue and with the fire department here locally, and learning about the funding and where the money goes to and trying to prevent stuff like this happening in the future. I spoke to our local fire chief and was asking him some questions about how often does this happen? How can we prevent these types of things? Last year, there was 14 water rescues just in this local community, in this small community. And then in Leavenworth, downtown in that area, 30 water rescues last summer. The funding for water rescue comes from the sheriff's department. So a lot of people don't realize that. I didn't know that at the time either, that, when we're talking about all the work that the police department and the sheriff's department does, a portion of that goes to search and rescue. And what portion do we provide search and rescue, or how much is funded? And the local fire department, which did so much in recovery and looking for Bill and in the recovery of Bill, has zero funding for search and rescue. Their funding is fire and EMS, and they have, as EMS has a duty to show up when there's search and rescue calls, but they don't have the tools to do the things that they need to do. They don't have a boat or life jackets or training to do water rescue. And so a lot of what I've been working on since Bill's death has been trying to find ways to raise funds for that type of thing. I live in a community that's big into outdoor activities. There's the skiing and the snowboarding and the snowmobiling and all the water activities in the summer and hiking and remote wilderness. So how can I help raise funds and help prevent something like this happening down the line to somebody else? So that's been a big part of what I've been doing over the last few months. We raised quite a bit of money after Bill's death for a new drone for the fire department. They used the drone every day when they were looking for him, and that was because they couldn't reach the areas where they thought he might be missing. And that drone will help with future rescues. That'll help. We have a lot of forest fires out here. It's going to help with the forest fires. And so that's the silver lining of all this. And I think Bill would be really stoked. And I think we're going to name the drone after him. So we haven't found the clever
Bill
name.
the drone.
Yeah, Big Bill. I think he was 6'4". He was a really big dude. So
Good guy.
Big Bill.
So how did you go about raising funds for this?
Because of being involved with the search and rescue team for 4 weeks, I got to know a few people, and my brother really got involved in it too. My brother's an engineer, not a search and rescue type guy. And through this whole thing, my brother has joined the fire department as a volunteer firefighter. Several of our friends in the community have joined the fire department, and all of my friends that live near me, there's a bunch of us, have joined the fire department's auxiliary, which helps raise funds for these types of things. So through that process of looking for Bill, I met a lot of people, and then I was like, listen, I got to do something. I got to do something good from this situation. And so that's how we were able to raise the money. I think we raised about $17,000. I don't know if that's the
Nice.
final number, but it was somewhere around there.
I have an idea for you guys. Somebody needs to train a search and rescue vulture that can go and find people. I'm serious. They can smell stuff from forever away. So if you train it,
so morbid.
listen, inclusivity and positivity about vultures.
Well, I'm a crazy dog lady. I feel like I should be handling the dogs, but that's the other thing I've been volunteering with is our local rescue started doing some volunteer work there too, because Bill's dream was to one day just have like a house full of rescue dogs. And so if I can
gonna
help,
happen.
Yeah.
I know. I was going to ask you that.
Dogs.
I was going to ask if you were going to have your dog, maybe not, Adler, because he's 12, but if you were going to train some dogs in scent work.
I don't know if I have the capabilities of doing that, but definitely would love to help connect a dog and somebody who knows how to do those things. We do have avalanche dogs around in the area too, because we have a big ski resort right up the road. So yeah, that would be really cool. That's one of the reasons why I started working in the animal rescue too.
I love that. Wow.
So I think that you've just kind of explained something that a lot of people who have gone through loss and are in grief feel. It's like we feel like we need to turn around and do something with it. It's like I cannot just hold this without doing something with it, because it's almost like just too much to hold on to and feel like it's got nothing good from it. So I love the creativity and where it went, because that's not how it goes for everybody. But I do feel like a lot of people feel that same. I mean, it created a podcast with Mel and I, right? That same feeling of like, I need to do something with this. Tell us about your decision to move to the log cabin full time. And how you're feeling about that now.
No, I don't ask Audrey a year from now if she's still in the woods, because I'm not sure that I would do it again if I was. Some people have called me the Disney princess because I have had bears, I have had a cougar. Last week I had a squirrel that made its way into the house. while I was gone. I was actually in New Zealand a couple weeks ago, and a squirrel moved in. So I do feel like a Disney princess because I'm just living in harmony with all of these animals around. But
But do they clean or are they just making a bigger mess?
yeah, no, they're not helpful at
Okay.
all. Yeah,
Train
that's
them, search and rescue, and cleaning vultures.
tame that cougar that keeps walking through the yard. Or last night it was coyotes. There was coyotes in the
Oh
yard.
my gosh. I was just going to say, can I come visit you? But now I'm like, I'm kind of scared I'll get eaten.
Well, I got a ski resort 25 minutes away. So, and I volunteer there too. I work with a nonprofit called the Chill Foundation. I've done that for years, and we take underserved youth and teach them how to snowboard, which is a pretty cool program. My gut reaction initially was like, I'm going to sell this house because Bill died up here, and that I just was like mad at nature, and I was trying to find a way to reconcile with nature, and then I just remembered what Bill would have wanted. This was our retirement dream and our plan, and so that's why I ended up moving here full time. I work remote, and so I can live anywhere. My community is here. My people are here. It's a beautiful area. And so I made the decision to move, and then it snowed like 4 feet in a week. And then the pipes were freezing and the toilet broke, and all of these things happened that just built character, I suppose you could say. So that was why that's the silver lining, I guess, is what I'm looking at. Is I was meant to be here, but it's been a learning experience. But I'm doing what Bill would have wanted me to do. That's what, if he was in the situation, he would have told me to do this.
What was the date where he went missing, and what was the date where they found him?
He went missing on June 25th. And I think,
Of 2022?
yes. And then I think he was found in July 22nd. It was a Friday. So it was like almost a month later.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're recording this. What are we in? We're almost in March, but our episodes sometimes are we pre-record them and they come out a couple months later. So whenever this comes out, you're still like within a year.
Yeah. But I'm an extrovert. Like why did I move into the woods remote? I don't know. Like I want to be around people.
To be extroverted with the squirrels and the vultures.
And to make friends on the internet, random strangers.
That's why we've become friends. Yeah, so those are the best. This is the best group of people that to become friends with. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just me trying lots of different things. And now that I know I can't decide what I'm going to be doing a year from now or 5 years from now, I can make good decisions, but I'm just going to roll with the punches and no dog or no kids. So I might live in another state next year. Who knows?
You might live in New Zealand, maybe.
Yeah, I could.
Maybe anywhere. I have a question for you because a little while ago, we kind of put feelers out in the Widow Wives Club. Are you liking the content? Like, what do you like? What do you not like? And for the majority of people, they were like, cool, keep doing it. And I think we did get a few requests that they would like more stories of people that are fresh in grief, like newly widowed. So this is definitely you. So
Yeah.
what are some things where you were just like, excuse me, what is going on? I need to talk about it. Because as Anita and I get further away from the deaths, I think we forget some of those initial things. Tell us what your life has been like and your emotions and your experience of being a widow.
Yeah, I think the shock of Bill's death, his age and the way he died, and the whole story has really put a lot of people in my life in this state of shock too. And so for me, it was really difficult to grieve with people that knew Bill because they were in shock about how he died and they were grieving him. And so I feel like I did distance myself from a lot of people that I was close with. For me, finding people who understood, even if they weren't fresh in grief, just people who understood what it was like to lose a spouse and to lose a spouse at a young age, even, or in a shocking way. And then just learning more about these people who are grieving their person. I love grieving with other people and about their person and learning about their person. And I think that when you put that survey out, that's the number one thing I said was listening to other people who have lost their person because it keeps them alive. It keeps their memory alive. And I hope at some point that I can return and do the same with Bill and keep Bill's memory alive. And so that's the thing that I have really leaned into over the past few months is talking to other people who have lost their person. Through the group, found somebody we call each other our widow wives through your guys' organization.
Yeah.
Shout out to Karen.
I know Karen.
Yeah.
By the way, thanks for moderating, Karen.
She was in the kind of, it felt like we were in the same stage of grief. We live so far apart, but I reached out to her and was like, you keep saying things in the group that I feel like connected with. And so then we just started messaging each other, and then we're texting each other. And so we've just become really good friends. And I don't know. I feel like widowhood's in this stage of life in this stage of widowhood, it feels like a lot of I'm binging this show. What show are you binging? Or I'm not eating good foods. Or I had strawberries for dinner because that's what was in the fridge, and that's the stage I'm in. And
Wait, I think I'm still in that stage.
I think I still am too. Do you guys want to add us to your thread?
What kind of Oreos did you have today?
I ate these almonds because they were here.
Or cupcakes for dinner. I think that was me a couple nights ago.
Cookies here.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found a widow wife and somebody that can relate, because this is just such a super hard journey. And it always makes me like feel conflicting feelings, because we've been through so many hard things, and those of us that have gone through it don't want other people to have to go through it, but we can't change that, and people will go through it. And the ways that we can witness people giving back to those, like when people are a little bit farther out, like what you're doing too, even though you're still like within a year, like you have like the goal that you want to reach back, and over time, like continue helping others in the situation. And so it's this beautiful thing that has come from the most horrible situation.
Yeah. That's what we call this. So I keep calling it the silver lining. It's the things that I never would have imagined. Right? I talked to my boss today on Zoom in New Zealand, and he was like, I don't know, I feel like you might have like some future in some of this grief widow space. And a year ago, I would have never even imagined that's where I would be today.
Did you tell him you were going to be a major podcast guest in just a few hours?
Your New Zealand viewership is going to like spike massively when the episode comes out.
Audrey, I want to ask you a question that I know is something that a lot of widows deal with. And I feel like it might be extra for you because you live in a log cabin in the middle of the woods. Talk to us about the feelings of isolation and feeling lonely as a widow.
I haven't figured out how to handle that yet, to be honest. I think luckily in this new age of Zoom, there's that. And I've worked in a remote position for 10 years. And so I've developed relationships with coworkers via Zoom for 10 years. And so that's definitely helped in strangers on the internet, strangers in the Widow Wives Club. But I definitely feel remote isolation for sure. And I don't know the answer because I am an extrovert. So I'm coming to Camp Widow in a couple of weeks.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. And I'll probably travel more. I mean, I have these two dogs that I don't know what to do with, but Adler likes to bite people and dogs too. So he's a special case.
Do your in-laws watch the dogs? Do you like drive them to your in-laws so they can watch them, or who watches them?
Well, they're 2 hours away now, but my sister definitely helps with that.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a good auntie. She's their godmom.
Aww.
Okay, this is going to be maybe a dumb question, and maybe it won't be a dumb question. Do you find that your dogs are able to help with missing of like physical touch? Do they help? Is it not helpful? Is it something that you like, come here, dog? Like, I need to feel something warm and alive and feel that, connection with somebody or something.
I wish, but
no,
they're not good snugglers.
Oh, you need a Vizsla. Get a rescue Vizsla.
Yeah. Adler listens to me and when I tell him what to do, but then the minute he can get away, he gets away. He doesn't like to be smothered. And my other dog, she's just not into it at all.
I have another question, and this is kind of random. You mentioned life insurance, and I know that one of my friends, when she applied for life insurance, they found out that her husband was a rock climber, or like rock climbed once or twice in his life. And as soon as they found that out, they're like, oh, you can't apply. How did you get life insurance? if you're doing extreme sports? Or did she just have a weird company that was like, yeah, we
I didn't
suck?
know that that wasn't a question that they asked. Yeah.
I think they ask what other activities you do. Like I got asked about skiing.
I think it depends on the policies. Like some of them have more rigorous interview processes than others do. Because I've done a couple of them and like they're like, are you alive? Yes. Like, do you smoke? No. Okay, you're in. And some of them are like, have you ever been? How many times a week do you go to Texas Roadhouse? You know, so I think it just
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Bill knew he did stupid stuff. So the really crazy thing is that he paid extra to double his life insurance policy too, because he he knew he was doing stupid things, and he must have had that hindsight when he signed up. It was through his work, though. I don't think they asked a lot of
Oh,
questions.
that's nice.
Bill was a rocket scientist, by the way. Like that was what he did for a
What?
Wait,
profession.
what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
What kind of engineer was he? I mean, an aerospace engineer? Is
yeah,
that what
yeah,
that
yeah.
was?
He worked for Blue
Wow.
Origin, which is Jeff Bezos's company, and they had a really cool benefit that I took advantage of as well. It was bereavement planning. So it was basically a death assistant, I suppose you could call it.
Whoa.
Yeah. So she just would, when I didn't, I started talking to her before they found Bill, but it was, helped me with find me a financial planner. She helped me find where we had a celebration of life, and she helped me navigate all the legal questions, and it was a really amazing benefit that his company offered.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's rad, actually.
Good
I've never heard
job.
of that.
yeah, yeah. And
I had a
described grief for me, like, because I didn't know. It's like, why do I want to keep doing all the things? Like, why do I want to figure out these policies? And it's, oh, I'm an instrumental griever. I had no idea what that even was.
How
So
have we not heard of this? And we like are in the grief community. We need to learn more. What are they
yeah,
called?
I don't think it's very common, unfortunately.
bereavement services. And so I think they do things too when somebody's also terminally ill. So they offer those services to their employees or spouses of, or like if an employee dies, or if the employee is, or if somebody in their, I don't know, someone in their family's
Yeah.
dying. I think it's hyper local though. Like she knew how to navigate Washington state law because she's in Seattle. So,
It
and
sounds
had
like a death
connections.
down, really, to me. Like it sounds like
Yeah.
a
Like
fancier
sort
term
of.
for that.
And
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
like Washington and like Pacific Northwest, they are not averse to talking about death,
A little bit
in
more.
politics and things like that. Like we know with some legislation, it's always it's a topic. So kind of
Yeah.
not surprised it's not in Utah, but that's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, it sucks someone died, but that's awesome. What did you say the type of griever is that you are?
Instrumental griever.
What
I
does
think
that
that's
mean?
where you check the boxes. You have to do the things, like you're not, it's less emotional, more doing the things to deal with your grief, which is, yeah. Yeah.
What are the other kinds? Did you know?
I think it was emotional. It's just emotional griever, instrumental griever, and you can be a hybrid. You can be one or the other, or both.
Is there like sociopathic griever?
I think that comes down the line.
Okay,
like,
okay.
later on.
How's your brain doing with widow brain?
It's a thing. It's definitely a thing. I'm a leader at work too, and so it makes it really difficult to lead other people. Sorry, guys, if you're listening. They're so understanding though, but yeah. And I have dyslexia, so between widow brain and dyslexia, like the things that come out of my mouth don't make sense sometimes.
Okay, wait. I feel like widow brain should, like, because it makes you dyslexic. I feel like it should cancel each other out.
It just
Isn't
makes
that-
it worse.
Dang it. I was really
Yeah.
hoping for something
Yeah.
for you.
Shout out to Audrey's work people too for being awesome and patient with her. We thank you from two rando widows that you probably will never meet.
Oh my
Thank you.
gosh. And work has been amazing. Like I went back way too soon, but they were like, take as much time as you need. They made a significant donation for the drone, and that just solidified that I'm in the right company doing the right thing. And that has been, my boss came out from New Zealand once the minute he heard that Bill was missing, he got on a plane, 3 kids under 4, got on a plane and came out and was just talking to people, came over, walked Adler, like amazing.
Wow.
Who does that?
I don't know. Because it's a
Wow.
really short flight too. It's only like a 24-minute
Yeah.
flight from New
Yeah.
Zealand
Yeah.
Um,
Super
to
quick.
US.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be like your work.
I know.
I know.
Do you work for the best company on the planet? Yes.
I feel like I
Yes.
do. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Audrey, what plans do you have for yourself? Are you in the time frame where you're just figuring out moment by moment? Do you
Yeah.
have anything you want to do or make happen, or just get through it for now and then figure it out as you go?
Yeah. One obstacle at a time. I went snowboarding for the first time a couple of weeks ago and I posted in the Widow Wives
Yeah.
Club. It was crazy how emotional I got. And I knew I was going to because it took me so long to go up. But the kids and volunteering really kind of got me over the obstacle. And so what I'm, taking one day at a time is really my plan now, and exploring different grief options, like handling grief, and how do I find other people to connect with, because I'm an extrovert, so, and live in the woods.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe next year I'll move to Texas up with my sister to get out of the snow and then come back here in the summer 'cause it's amazing, or maybe I'll go to the East Coast. I don't know.
Yeah. Does that feel daunting also? Does it feel freeing at all, or does it just feel totally like this is not what I want to be doing and I don't like that I have these options?
I know, isn't that like where probably, think about that, all those options, and you're like, I don't want to do this. And it's like, oh my gosh, but then I could do this. And so it vacillates between the two. And I've just realized that I can't decide what I'm doing 5 years for now. So I just have to go with the flow, which is not my personality type at all by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm letting it happen because I can't make decisions right now. I can't make long-term decisions. And nobody is really relying on me but me, which is the benefit of not having kids, I guess.
The
Yeah.
benefit and the hard thing, because there's the isolation and loneliness.
Yeah.
But you don't have like Anita's stress, which
But
is
you
like,
live in a log cabin in the woods. One time
Yeah.
a squirrel ate a hole through my pants pocket.
how?
How did
It
it
had
end up in your pants?
it had a candy bar in there and I was camping.
Anita!
The pants were not on me at the time, but I like came back to the tent and the squirrel was like, and it got the candy bar and I had a
And
hole in my pants pocket.
the more childhood stories I hear about you, the more I realize you actually were a feral child.
What
And
if I told you I was an adult when that happened?
okay, not surprised either.
It ate through the outside of my pocket too, not like from the inside. So I had a hole in my
Anita,
pants.
oh my gosh.
That life camping is like what I live here every day. It's like
That's
so crazy.
permanent camping.
When you talk about like having to get your wood for your wood stove, and I'm like, I'm out. Nope, 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 nope. That's not for me. The snow is like 82 feet tall. Ugh.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm
my
learning a
gosh.
lot. Or the time my toilet broke because it was so cold, the wax ring failed, and I'm like, what am I going to
What?
do?
I didn't even know that
Begging.
was a thing that could happen.
I didn't either. And I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I can watch a YouTube video and take the toilet apart. But then what if I do more damage than good? And
Yeah. Here's a question though, as an instrumental griever, have you found it helpful that you are quite busy with what some might say are like mundane tasks? Like you have to check all of these boxes just to live. You don't have a lot of time to just like sit and think about things. You're like, I got stuff to do to live in the little house on the prairie here.
that's probably why I did this. Put
Mhm.
myself into this situation is because I needed to challenge myself in those ways. Because I probably would have been just stuck in some weird rut if I stayed there at the other house and reintegrated into that society.
Do you have to chop your own wood?
I have a log splitter,
But
and
so yes, you
I
do.
have, it's not super, I mean, it's remote, but there's neighbors. And so we go out as a group and cut down trees and chop wood. That's been something we've always done. And so, yeah, luckily I had all the wood already ready for the winter before Bill died. This summer, my neighbors, I'm sure, will help me restock.
Wasn't it you, Audrey, that got that couch you're sitting on as your
Yeah, my
grief couch?
yes.
I
This
thought
is
that was the
my
best post.
yes. Because I'm like, I'm gonna binge watch TV shows on a regular, being isolated in the woods. I better get a nice couch.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
grief couch. So, well, I just would like to extend the invitation that anytime you feel like you need to like go snowboard somewhere, Utah's a great place. If you need to get out, I'll ski with you. I'll ski. You can snowboard. Um, Yeah, and there are a bunch of skiers and snowboarders in the Widow Wives Club. So if you're
Yeah,
ever
we
up to
should
it, let's do it.
plan a trip. Yeah. I'm in.
Yeah.
I've snowboarded in multiple countries, different states. It's definitely my jam. We got married in Whistler. So went snowboarding, got married, and yeah, in the snow.
I may be predicting that we might be ski travel friends in the
Yeah.
future, unless you're like, I don't like you, go away. Please go away. So, because I tried to drag Anita and I find it took me 3 years to get her
Once
this
we've
year,
gone
once.
Yeah, but Anita, I feel like you're my like I've been snowboarding for I think like 25 years, but I'm like cruisy, just chilling down really
Yeah.
slow. I'm 42. I'm gonna break a bone if I go any too wild. So I'm just a real cruisy snowboarder.
I'm mostly worried about not getting myself hurt. That's how I feel about all things.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
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 I
Yeah.
just want to do jumps.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone at on any run, right? Any like good blue
Yes.
run. Like people can run down the groomer. It's fine. People can go in the trees off to the side or whatever, you can find stuff to do.
I'll record you while you're doing your jumps.
Okay,
Perfect.
you can be
That's it,
my ski mom filmer.
Yeah.
Okay, Audry, plan on it. I'm serious.
I'm in.
And we are so glad that we got to talk to you today. And Anita gets to ask the last question.
The muy important question of what's your favorite cheese, Audrey?
I laugh so hard when I listen to the episodes and people are like shocked when they get asked these questions. Like, have you even listened to the podcast?
I know. We're like, we can tell you don't listen.
We say the same thing. We're like, we know your secret.
Mhm.
So I didn't grow up eating cheese because my dad hated it. But
How do you hate
yeah,
cheese?
I know. He thinks it's rotten milk. He loves milk. Cheese is rotten milk. That's his
I
rationale.
mean, he's not wrong.
wrong,
It kind of is,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's delicious.
But goat cheese, 100% goat cheese. Yeah.
See, I feel like you went from, way over because goat cheese is not a mild cheese. It's got some flavor to it. So
Yeah. It's good on a salad or a burger or anything. Yeah.
I love it too. Thank you so much for joining us once again, Audrey. We hope that our listeners have enjoyed this story. Please find the Widow Wives Club on Facebook and join it. Make sure you join the right one because there's 2 of them out there these days. And if you want to keep the podcast going, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonoww.
And if you will please give us a rating and review, it really helps us to find people when we need to find them. So on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And until we get to talk to you again, Mel has something.
Or get our app. The end. Go.
Until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Audrey.
We are 2 young widows and 1 widow who lives in the little house on the prairie, but in the woods. And we're all just trying to figure out widow.
We
do
now.
This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep, Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.